But are you surprised Jokic just ran away with MVP? Look at those numbers.
Not at all. I mean, I'm surprised this is even a question. Nikola Jokic was the clear-cut MVP, and shout out to my media brethren, most of whom got this thing right. It was overwhelming for Embiid, or for Jokic, and it should have been. Embiid obviously missed too many games. I heard a little chatter. I heard too much chatter after that game last night where Embiid was terrific. It was a revenge game. Oh, he was upset that he didn't get MVP. Thankfully, Joel didn't buy into it, and he didn't say anything about it. But that is ludicrous to think Embiid, after missing 21 of the 72 games, should have gotten MVP. And, Nick, please don't come with the Chris Paul stuff. Look, he was third on my ballot, so I gave CP3 love. I saw he got 2 votes. That has to be Uncle Cliff or Cliff Paul and Jake from State Farm. Because I can't imagine how Chris Paul got a vote for the MVP. I mean, it's crazy. What? In this series right now, I picked Phoenix to win it.
What are you wearing,
But
Jake
if they
from State
do,
Farm?
this has nothing to do. This is not a memorandum on that Chris Paul should have been MVP over Jokic. Chris Paul has his second and third best players. All right, both of whom are scoring more points a game than Chris. All right, Jokic is without his second best player, Jamal Murray, and without his starting backcourt when we throw in Will Barton. So this has nothing to do with. Last thing, great suggestion for the NBA. I hope they're watching. This is what they need to do to avoid all of this talk about, if a player wins MVP in the postseason and they don't get to the finals, he didn't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. Have a award show after the season, right in between the regular season and the start of the playoffs. Do it on TNT with Charles, Kenny, Shaq, and Ernie, and make it a great show. You can have the players on there to be interviewed, via satellite. It'd be a wonderful show that everyone would watch. That's how they should do it at the end of the regular season.
Let's throw your name in there, too.
That's a great idea, which is how I know you stole it from Kevin Wildes, because he said it on this show yesterday, because everything else you said is a bunch of balderdash, my friend. But listen, you see what Chris Broussard did right there? A little preemptive strike against what he knows is coming. He's like, now let me tell you, if the MVP gets beaten by the actual MVP, it doesn't mean the actual MVP should have been the MVP. And you're right. Joel Embiid was not the guy who is going to take this poorly. But I do wonder how the man who should have won MVP won Chris Paul, and all of a sudden healthy Chris Paul is going to take it when he has to stand there and grit his teeth in a few days when he watches Nikola Jokic get his award. Now, are we going to get an Akeem Olajuwon, David Robinson type of depantsing? Probably not, because they don't play the same position. But we saw this happen in 1995 when the man who felt he should be the MVP had to watch a different man win the MVP while they were playing in a playoff series, and it did not go well at all for one David Robinson, the great David Robinson. So listen, I understand that what happened here was it became almost not just unpopular, almost unforgivable to have the audacious opinion that Nikola Jokic was not the MVP, which is why I don't think all 91 of those voters, Broussard, and I want to go back to Broussard quickly because I want to ask him a question because he is a voter. I'm not a voter. We know that. It's shameful, but whatever, it is what it is. I think there was some peer pressure involved. And I don't know if you've ever been to a city council meeting, or maybe a better example is an HOA meeting, where it's like, hey, I'm running for re-election for the HOA board. Let's just do a voice vote or show of hands. And all of a sudden you see 4 people's hands go up, and then you're like, oh, he's going to win? All right, fine. I'll put my hand up. I don't want to be the guy. But if it was written down in secret ballot, you would have actually gotten a more honest vote. I think the MVP voting would be more honest if guys didn't have to put their names on it. Because I think folks are afraid of having the NBA nerd side of the media, the analytics crowd, say you're a Neanderthal, you don't appreciate his box score plus minus. So I think what happened with this voting was Nikola Jokic, by the way, who's a deserving candidate. I had him second. It's not like I thought it was ridiculous. There is no way he should have run away with it. And the only person who got more than 2 first-place votes was Steph, because there was at the very end of the season a little momentum like, okay, you can vote for Steph if you want. I think we would get a more honest accounting of what people actually think if this ballot was like, regular ballots, which is a secret ballot. There's a reason voting is often done in secret, so people can vote what they truly believe, not what they're pressured by their colleagues to vote for. You hate this idea.
Nick, we're grown men. All right, we're not worried about what somebody says. Peer pressure to vote for MVP? Really? No, Jokic deserved it, and I get it. He largely won it because he was able to play every game and he didn't get hurt, and a lot of other guys, Embiid, James Harden, Kevin Durant, LeBron, they all got hurt. I get all that. But there is not a legitimate argument, as great as he is, for Chris Paul being MVP over Nikola Jokic. There just isn't. He averaged 16.8 assists. Jokic averaged just as many assists, shot better from 3. Played without his best players. I can make an argument that Devin Booker is the best player on the Phoenix Suns. I mean, you really can. And so, come on, Monty Williams had a large role in turning that team around. No, you can't. Last year, look at when their turnaround began. It was when DeAndre Ayton came back from the 25-game suspension. All right, so that team was rolling from that point on, playing plus 500 basketball from the time Ayton got back, and then they kept it up. Now, CP3 was huge for them, don't get me wrong, but
he was the catalyst.
He was the catalyst. There's no way. That's fine, but did he deserve MVP over Jokic?
I know, but we had. You talked about precedent and historical precedents, right? You have this whole criteria. What is it, like a list of 5, 6 things? So when you look at what CP3 was able to do, you have to respect that. And a lot of times we hone in too much on the stats and what they're doing, on the court. But, man, this dude took an organization that haven't been to the playoff in 10 years, and look where they're at now. And hell, they could potentially win and be the team to come out the West. But here's the deal. I'm going to let you guys continue to debate, who's the MVP, who should have been the MVP. I think this is a time to celebrate Joker. Now, I had a hard stance and a hard take all year. I was on the table for James Harden. I was on the table for Joel Embiid. But this was a funky year, like you said, Chris. You've been saying it, man. This is a weird year where guys that are deserving to be the MVP, LeBron James, James Harden, Joel Embiid, they just missed too much time. And the guy who was most consistent was Joker. Not only playing, but he dominated night in and night out, Kevin. And when you look at this team, I don't know if they make the playoffs if he's not on that team. Jamal Murray was sensational in the bubble last year, but Jamal Murray didn't show up this year. I'm sorry, but Jamal Murray wasn't a big contributor before he went down with that knee injury. So I want to give Joker flowers, and Chris, you said it, and that's when I knew it was over. So I'm not surprised that he got 91 out of 100 votes wild, because when Chris said it, a guy who has a vote and a guy who has so much influence on so many people in the basketball community, I knew it was over. I knew CP3 didn't have a chance.
Yep. Broussard bullied him.
Well, yeah,
I agree.
Broussard out here cyberbullying. Broussard is one of the bullying.
I'm Suge Knight now. Now I'm Suge
bullying just hanging Sam Amick out of the window. By his feet. Sorry, that's a Vanilla Ice Suge Knight story. Okay, Broussard, bigger picture. Go up to 10,000 feet. One of the big narratives that we've had is no more big men. It's not like the good old days. Not like the good old days when it was David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon and Shaq. It's all just pace and space, and you guys are hitting 3 in small ball. And then you look at who got MVP votes. Joker won. Embiid gets a lot of buckets in the paint, hits a few threes, and Giannis gets a bunch of buckets in the paint. Do you think that this voting could be part of a larger trend over you know what? While everyone wants to shoot threes, there is actually a lot of value in the big men, and perhaps we've been underrating them and underutilizing them for the past few years.
I think it's nice to see the big men get some love. I'll give you that. But look, they're obviously all big men that play on the perimeter. You know, Embiid does post up more than anybody else in the league, but he takes a lot of jump shots. He's a great jump shooter. He's got moves on the perimeter, all that. Like you said, hits the occasional three.
That's true.
Jokic is a point center. Jokic has invented a position. He is a point center, and he shoots a lot of threes, 42% from three during the playoffs. He's a great perimeter player. Now, he does what Jokic and Embiid both do that's great is they will use their size to post up as well. They play on the perimeter a lot, but they'll also go ahead and post up near the basket when they need to. I'd actually like to see Giannis doing more of that. Giannis is going to have to start posting up a little more and not trying to always take the ball from the top of the key to get to the paint. But it's good to see the big men get some love and some shine in this league that's now becoming about small ball.
Who'd you vote second? You had Jokic 1, CP3 third. Who'd you vote second? You had Giannis second. So the question I would have for you, and I think that's a legitimate one. I think it's a very legitimate one. The question I would have for you is this, because I know I give you a hard time, but you know that I really do respect your basketball opinion. It feels to me like your Chris Paul isn't the MVP argument, would also knock him far out of your top 5. Because by the numbers, by the fact that the turnaround started arguably last year, by the fact that he might not even be the best player on his own team, that he is not, then he's clearly didn't have a better year than the rest of your ballot or the first guy left off your ballot. So, to me, it would have made more sense for folks to not have Chris Paul on it at all than to have him second, third, or fourth. If you are putting him in the top 4, you are saying his impact cannot be quantified by numbers, which is the argument I'm making. So, what was your thought process on he was good enough to be ahead of Steph? He was good enough to be ahead of Giannis. Not Giannis. He was good enough to be ahead of Harden, whomever the rest of your ballot was, but he wasn't good enough to be the MVP of the league.
Well, the rest of my ballot was Embiid 4th and Steph 5th. It simply put, Embiid missed too many games. He missed 21 of the 72 games. That's far more than anyone has ever missed and won MVP since the media's been voting. All right, one time it happened when Bill Walton played 58 of 82 games. Yeah. That was when the players voted, which there was some Kareem won it without making the playoffs one year and stuff like that, when players voted. Media hasn't had that precedent. Steph didn't even make the playoffs. And granted, we didn't know that at the time of the vote, but they were in the play-in. So that's a criteria as well. Brandon noted my criteria. Wins and losses is not everything, but it is part of the equation. And I'm not trying to poo-poo Chris's season. He was tremendous. I do think he was the main factor in their turnaround, but I'm just saying when you compare the help he had to what Jokic had, I don't think it's comparable. So I think I felt good putting Chris number 3, and I thought the other two, Harden I didn't even have on my ballot because he missed too many games. And so that was my thought process.
That's fair.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.